Hello there, and welcome back to the next episode of Overcome Yourself, the podcast. As you know, my name is Nicole, and I'm very excited to be here today with Lenore. Now, Lenore, please go ahead and introduce yourself. I want you to tell us a little bit about who you are and who you help.
Sure. I'm Lenore Kantor. I'm a transformational coach and founder of Growth Warrior, and I support high achievers to create more alignment in their personal and professional life. I don't believe we need to be divided, and we can create more authenticity and alignment around our values in our work. I'm also
Oh,
the
that's
author,
lovely.
an author like you. And
Thank-
yeah, and I mentor a lot of founders and soulpreneurs as well.
That's lovely. Thank you. Now, tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you become this growth warrior? Like, how did that come about? That sounds amazing.
Sure. I worked for 20 years in the corporate world as initially a product launch expert, and then I transitioned into marketing and communications. So my expertise was really on go to market strategies. And I had helped take a company public. 6 months later, they were acquired by a very large corporate entity. So I went from 150 people to 300 to 50,000.
Wow.
And a few months into that transaction, I realized I couldn't do it anymore and that I really needed to have a little more freedom and independence. So that was about 12 years ago. And I've had my own coaching and consulting business for that period of time. I spent the first 10 years mostly acting as an outsourced chief marketing officer. So I would do fractional interim marketing strategy for high growth businesses. And I was also doing, executive leadership coaching. And about 2 years ago, I got additional training in addition to the different coaching that I had done previously. I learned about energy medicine and shamanic healing. And so I really started integrating that into my work. And now I work primarily with leaders, conscious leaders who are looking to create change in their life.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful transition. I love how you were able to kind of pivot within what you were already doing, and because you're working kind of, I imagine, with the same people, but just in a new capacity, right?
Yeah, I would say, what I have noticed is I came out of the financial technology space. So a lot of the folks that I worked with in the financial world were very much in their head. And the work I do now, I want to help people connect more with their heart. So as long as they have an openness and a willingness to really look at their whole body, I do a lot of work with the chakras. And so if somebody's only all about the numbers, I feel that they're not getting the full picture, because while the quantitative metrics are important, they certainly overlook the qualitative values. They're not completely they're more focused on performance and output as opposed to relationships, values, connection, which, so I want people to have that interest in the whole picture.
I love that. I think that's so important. And can you, as someone that comes from the world of launches, it sounds like, right? Because you're releasing
Yeah.
products, you're doing marketing. Um, Can you talk to us a little bit about how we can keep a balance on both of those things as we are launching new products, creating new things as, small entrepreneurs? We want to have that IPO one day, right?
Yeah, 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 of course.
But at the same time, create that balance. So can you give us a few tips about how we can do that?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that I know it's easy to lose sight of is what is it that's most important to you? And I think sometimes we think it's the money, it's the visibility, the fame, whatever, the followers. And while those things may be useful guidelines, when we focus only on those without really connecting with our true values, which might be quite different, like deep connection, meaning, growth, whatever that is, we can lose sight of what's most important. So I think one of the things I try to help people connect with is to come up with what is the filter they're going to use for assessing success in their life. And is success that you reach a certain dollar amount, even if that comes at the expense of burning yourself out or, compromising what you believe in? Or is it about you're doing something meaningful and fulfilling for you, you're using your creativity? So I think once people realize that sometimes what they think they want is not actually what they most care about, that they're looking outside of themselves instead of within themselves, that's when they can get out of balance. So it's really about coming back to yourself and knowing within yourself what feels right in terms of the timing of the launch, the size, the strategy, right? Like there isn't, from my perspective, one size fits all, right? You've got to find what works for you. And I think that is the biggest challenge I know I've struggled with, and many new entrepreneurs do, is they're looking for the playbook for someone else and they spend a lot of money, like, tell me what to do. And then someone tells them what they would do, but it doesn't always align with what, is their working style, their preferences, and things like that. So I believe in really learning to listen to yourself and know what's true for you.
That's a big deal. In my book, I talk about defining what success means to you.
Yeah.
And it's a common theme among very successful entrepreneurs who come to this podcast and they tell me I had it. I had the I had the money. I had literally my dream house. I designed it. I had all the things, but I wasn't fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important how you broke it down and really made it very scientific about quantifying versus qualifying, right? And so there's this, is it quality or is it quantity? And something that I've come across in my research, I know people say money can't buy happiness, but research does show us that after a certain point of income, your happiness is no longer affected by money.
Yes.
So
Yes.
once your bills are paid, like no debt, your bills are paid, like you are able to take care of yourself, you're able to do certain things. After that, the level of money doesn't matter. And so people are like, I'm going to make $1 million. Well, what if after 100,000, your happiness is not affected by that money anymore? Are you still going to aspire to that? So can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I have seen with high achievers, which is the people I'm usually working with, right? They're always chasing the next thing, right? And so I try and help people recognize when they're on the hamster wheel and it's not serving them because they're making themselves crazy, right? And people do it in different ways. So one way, and I saw you talked about this a lot, is lack of boundaries. They're working all the time. They don't know how to say no, right? So that's one way people can get out of alignment. Another is they're trying to accomplish something that is outside of them to make their parents happy, to compete with their friends, to, win recognition or whatever. So they're looking for something to validate them outside of themselves. So it's really about helping people reconnect within, around, recognizing when things are feeling helpful and when things are making them unhelpful, and so coming back to that center to recognize that they have more control than they realize over certain things, but they need that awareness of when they're the ones that are making it difficult for themselves, and how their behaviors, their beliefs, their actions are making them unhappy. and that they can change it.
That's that's a common theme in my world, is having hard talks with yourself. And sometimes you just have to sit yourself down and really have a hard talk. And that happened to me, and I detail it in my book. Probably in my next book, I'll talk about it more because, I'm starting to open up more about the deeper layers, right? Um, but I talked about this in a 5-minute open mic that I did. I used to have panic attacks every day. Now that
Mm,
came from a vitamin deficiency, and so I did have to go to my doctor to be able to deal with that. But one of the ways that I was able to finally take that step was in the middle of a panic attack. I'm crying, I'm wailing, I'm just full on Disney princess, on the bed, just like at the worst, right? And one day I was like, do you like this? Do you like doing this every single fucking day?
yeah.
Because why does it keep happening? And so it took me a little while, right? But I had to work through that and be like, well, if you don't want this, then what do you want? What does happiness look like? What does joy, what kind of life do you actually want? Because until you don't know that, how are you going to get there?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's where my journey to gratitude started. And I had to be grateful for where I am right now, but also grateful that I'm able to work towards that thing that I'm going for, right? So yeah, so just what does that bring up for you?
Well, I think that's so beautiful. And I think it's so powerful when people can have that awareness of, oh, I'm really not happy. What can I change? That and they recognize they can change it. Because I do find some people feel trapped and they can't see a way out, and it's basically a cage of their own making. I've had this conversation with a friend and she just can't see it, but she needs to earn a certain amount of money to live her lifestyle. And I suggested, well, why don't you cut back on your expenses? Your child is going to college now. Maybe you don't need such a big house. No, I can't. I have to do this. I say, okay, is that working for you? And it isn't, but she can't see beyond it. I had one client in particular who was very wedded to a particular role. She had gotten a certification. So she felt, I'm certified. I've got to be in that position in the corporate world to have credibility. Meanwhile, she'd had her own successful consulting business, but she decided, I need the corporate job. She got the job. She was miserable. I said, so how's it going? I really don't like it. So we helped her find another place within the company. She couldn't find that. We helped her go back to her consulting. And then we looked at what she was doing. She actually didn't like the work she was doing that she had the certification in. And so I said, what do you want to do? And she knew, well, I don't want to do project management. I really want to do research and writing. And so we totally pivoted her business model. But it takes a while for people to, like you say, peel back the layers to recognize what's their truth, because it's covered over by masks, defenses, denial, old assumptions. So you kind of need to clear that stuff out to understand what's really going on.
What that made me think of is they're covered by rules that we put in place at some point to help us stay safe. And we
Yes.
have to acknowledge that that is not necessary anymore. Like if you move to, a house that already has a big fence, you don't need to bring your little white picket fence and put it outside or inside that fence. Like you've already got, you're
Yeah.
good now, right? And so it's really, yeah, it's recognizing the rules that we've put in place, right? That's the subconscious, those stories that we run under. And then We don't have to be aggressive about it, but we can just be like, hey, what are you doing here? Why are you
Yeah,
here? Do I need
yeah.
you anymore? Right? Like give the stuff to the thrift store, put it all in a bag and let's get rid of the stuff we don't need anymore. I love that.
I do think it is a process because people have a lot of fear that keeps them stuck. And I had this with another client who wanted to make a change, but they felt a sense of loyalty to where they were working. But they knew they weren't happy and they could be doing something else, but it was scary to take that leap, to leave where they were, to go. And what if they made a mistake? And but so we explored, like, okay, let's step into this new possibility and see how it feels. And it was really uncomfortable for her initially, like, oh, I don't like it. And then we said, okay, go back to where you were, feel that. And she's like, oh, I don't like what I'm doing right now. I said, okay, go to the new possibility, and it felt more comfortable. And I was like, all right, well, which do you want? I want to stay in the new possibility. But it took a transition for her to see that that could in fact be okay. It was almost like she needed to adjust her nervous system to be able to tolerate the discomfort of the change. And then when she'd made that adjustment and she could look at the other option, she could then see, oh, I don't want this. I can choose this new thing and I can get through the uncertainty and whatever I imagined might happen. Like that was not true. I can do this. And that's kind of the work. It's like to hold people's hand as they go through that transition.
Yes, of course it's scary. You've had a routine for God knows how many years. You have a way to work. You get home at a certain time, like you know what you get to do when you get to your office. And now you don't know. And so it makes sense that your brain is like, unknown. It's like you're just throwing me in the ocean with some sharks. And then I love how you use visualization to step into that. I know that that helped me a lot too, and be like, well, what if? And we use what ifs for good instead of using them for for bad. Right? Because anxiety
Exactly.
uses what ifs to be like, well, what if there's sharks, or what if you get burned, or what if whatever. But what if we use what ifs, or what if it works? What if you like this better? What if you make more money?
Yeah.
What if you have less stress? And just giving ourselves permission to be like, well, what if something good happens? Oh,
Yeah.
that's really good. This is a great conversation. Um, I touched on gratitude, but can you talk to me about what role gratitude plays, like in your work with your clients in this journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about reframing their experience to appreciate what is going well versus what is not. And I do think that is unfortunately a common practice that many of us have who are used to always chasing the gold ring. It's always moving, it's always the next, and then you reach it and the next. So you never really have a chance to celebrate what you have achieved. So for me, it's very important to recognize the milestones and to acknowledge and celebrate with the clients where they're at and all the things that they're doing well. And I do think people need that because they often don't give it to themselves.
Big deal. One of my stories that I caught in my head was, you don't get anything done. You haven't gotten anything done. So I'd be writing my book and I'd get up, I'd be at the computer for 6 hours that day and be like, look at you, you're still in your PJs. You haven't even done anything today. And I had to be like, no, brain. We just got done writing this, right? Or like when my book came out, we were just talking about my book before we started recording. You finish writing it, and then your brain is like, well, you haven't sold any. Well, that wasn't the goal, brain. We haven't sold any because I just finished writing it. We have to go edit it. Like there's a whole bunch of
Yeah,
stuff. And so yeah, moving that goalpost, such a big problem. Um, yeah, and like you said, gratitude helps us reframe that and just change our perspective a little bit and just be able to say, good job, Nicole. You did it. One of your life goals was to write a book and you freaking did it. Next step is marketing, and then we'll come up with all that stuff. But for right now, you be proud of yourself because you wrote a book. Tell us about your book, speaking of which, because I'm proud of you for writing your book too.
Yes, thank you. So it's called So What Do You Do? The Authentic Alchemy Path to Find Who You Are. And I share an 8-step framework to guide people to more of that personal and professional alignment. What I think makes this different from traditional career guidebooks is that it's really more of a life and user manual. So I've got a lot of very practical strategies about how you can create change, but I've woven in multiple healing modalities. So I work with Feng Shui, I talk about clearing, I work with energy, all the chakras. There's a hero or heroine's journey that helps people put their experiences in context so that they can know they haven't made any mistakes. They can really transform everything they've done into creating meaning going forward. And yeah, writing the book was such an experience, and promoting it, and it's been a journey, but it was really a wonderful exercise, and it is nice to sort of have it finished, right? And
Yeah.
celebrate, go us.
Yeah, it's so easy to move on to the next step though, right? Like you finish it and you're
Yeah,
like, well, why haven't you sold any? You're like, well, we haven't started that step yet, brain, so let's calm down.
yeah.
Oh my goodness, this has been wonderful. I've loved this conversation so far. So tell me, how can we stay in touch with you?
Yes, I'd love to share. So my website is growthwarrior.co, not .com. You can follow me on Instagram at Lenore Kantor, LenoreKantor. And on YouTube, I'm Growth Warrior LTD. So those are the best ways. And obviously people can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So I like to share lots of information and other resources for folks through those different channels.
Awesome. And you mentioned that you had some gifts for the audience that you might have available.
Yeah, so on my website, under the book in the navigation, is a number of different elements to support the book process if people are interested in going deeper. One of the aspects in particular is working with the elements, which is a part. So, air, water, fire, earth. So that is a resource for people. And I have a tarot spread because there are tarot readings in there as well. And then on my resources page, I have other things that can help people, a guided visualization, and also some traditional career resources about professional branding, resume, outreach, things like that. So,
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I want
yes.
to know, final tip, what's like that big aha moment, that like the favorite tip that you give your clients that they're like, this is what changed my life?
Well, I would say the first step that I recommend to people is they need to be ready for change. And I find that sadly, many people are not. And they're so full of ideas of things they're carrying around. We talked about it, those unhelpful beliefs, behaviors, attitude, all of those things. So I think if you can create space by clearing. You can do it physically, you can do it emotionally, you can do it in your environment, your space where you're working. But once you create that space, you allow new things to come into your life. But if you don't have space, like this cup is full, I can't pour anything else into it. So it's very difficult to create the changes we desire if we're so like stuffed up with things that there's no room. So I think it's really about people recognizing when they want to change something, to do it consciously by creating the space for taking action, to create space in their environment, and really to set a clear intention that they're ready to move forward to change.
That is fantastic, phenomenal. I love it. Um, in one of my challenges, one of the first things that I had my, the participants do was go through your wallet, clean out your purse, but specifically, don't go through the whole purse. Just grab your wallet, what's in there. And that is one way that I learned to find abundance. You might already have a
Yes.
bunch of money in your wallet and you forgot about it, gift cards and change and bills that you just threw in there. And so I love that. I think it resonates exactly with that, like clean stuff out. And cleaning, like when I go to write, if I want to clean my house, I give myself a writing assignment. Right? Because my brain needs that as part of the process. And I'll go clean something and I feel like that's my brain kind of sorting things out and getting rid of stuff it doesn't need. So I feel like it's the physical representation of what my brain is doing, kind of going through the filing cabinet. What are we gonna write next? And so I love that. I love that clearing it being the first
Yeah,
step.
that's great. Oh, well, that's, clearing the wallet is classic feng shui. So that's awesome.
Oh, I love it. I learned that from somewhere else, but I was like, this is so good that I got to share it. So that's a great activity for you guys that you're listening today. Go see what's in your wallet. Go see how much money
Yeah.
you've actually got that you forgot about. Well, this has been absolutely amazing, Lenore. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you guys for being here. We'll catch you guys on the next episode of Overcome Yourself, the podcast. Bye.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.